Peace. Now, before I make this, I want to say that by no means whatsoever am I attempting to justify this behavior. I'm simply shining light on the topic. So we got tobacco right here. Now, we've been smoking tobacco for hundreds of years. And see right here in the definition, the etymology dictionary, it says, however, while it is a fact that the tobacco plant and the custom of smoking its leaves, already observed by Columbus in 1492, did originate in the New World. Right. So, cross-reference it. Got this book, 1491, New Revelations of the Americas Before Columbus by Charles C. Mann. Great book, go get it, if you can find it. So we got, here he is. At the head of the party was an uneasy triumvirate. Massasoit, the sachem, political military leader of the Wampanoag Confederation. See that? Said a lot of stuff. Says a lot about Europeans in this book at the time, specifically the British and the French. But it says right here, talking about Massasoit, around his neck hung a pouch of tobacco, a long knife, and a thick chain of the prized white shell beads called wampum. Right. So you got already observed by Columbus, pouch of tobacco. This was in, let's see, March 22nd, 1621. Now, a few years back, I found this article, this PDF, in the Library of Congress, talking about the 5 civilized tribes. And when Columbus found the natives, the Europeans weren't aware of what smoking was. They called it fumigation of the mouth. Let's see. So we take this book, cross-referencing, that came before Columbus, by Ivan van Sertima. There's a whole chapter about smoking, tobacco, and pipes in Africa and America. See Jean Nicot, from where the word nicotine comes from. All right. Says right here, it says he had heard of a plant like this among the Moors, used for curing the noli me tangere, but he had dismissed this as irrelevant. Noli me tangere. Let's see what that means. Give me a second here. Here we go. Noli me tangere. See that? Noli me tangere. It means touch me not. Alright. Here we go. All he wanted of the plant was for it to adorn his garden. It was almost as tall as man, full of leaves, large and long bearded. He felt indeed as if he had acquired from some secret garden a rare and exotic flower of the newfound world. Let's see. Oh, there's a story right here. Let me see this. Oh, the young man in. Here we go. Page was Later that day, a friend of Nicote's page boy, walking and talking in the garden, felt the sharp itching on his cheek by the side of his nose. It was an ugly little growth, halfway between a purulent boil and a cold wart, vexing him continually. And because he had nothing on hand, he impulsively tore a leaf from Master Nicote's prized plant and rubbed the spot. A slimy, sticky substance came out of the leaf, but it cooled and tightened the skin like an astringent. To his astonishment, the itching stopped for all that day and the next. Let's see. The page boy told Nicote of this. He called the young man in, and for a week and a half every day he squeezed the viscous juice of the leaf onto his face. The growth completely vanished. But this was only the beginning. In the kitchen of the embassy, a week later, one of the cooks nearly severed his thumb with a great chopping knife. The steward of the house dressed the wound quickly, using the leaves of this plant as a bandage. The thumb was good within a month. News like this travels with the wind. People flocked to the embassy as to the miracle waters of Lourdes. There was the page boy's father, who had a chronic ulcer in his leg, and a woman whose face was so completely disfigured by the ringworm that it looked as if she wore a visor of boils. The juice of this extraordinary plant was applied. Within 2 weeks, the ulcers, the ringworms dried up, the sufferers were pronounced healed. Tobacco, it began to be known as the ambassador's herb. Nicote called in doctors to confirm the cures. He wrote to King Francis II and prescribed it for all nobles in the French court. See right here it says, what has become the king of vices, the sovereign lord of tooth and lung decay, of dentine tartars and pulmonary cancers, was once, from Greco-Roman to medieval times, a sovereign remedy, killer of all aches and worms that attack tooth or lung, liver or skin, bladder or brain. Thus, tobacco began about 2,000 years ago as one of the great cures of all ills and evolved into what is today one of the great killers of all times. So just showing. Here we go. The Africans already had tobacco. An indigenous species was growing wild and plentiful there. As this plant, however, was initially associated with Arab smoke medicine, even though it was later used by the African medicine men and magicians for other purposes, it became known by the Arab smoke word tubak. Then we have, I don't know if y'all are aware of El Mansour. Let's see, as a result of the arrival of an elephant from the Sudan in the city of El Mansour, the use of the dire plant called tobacco was introduced into the Maghreb. Since the Negroes who had brought the elephant had also had brought tobacco, which they smoked, claiming that the use of it offered great advantages. The habit of smoking, which they brought with them, became the general in the Dra, later at Morocco, and at last in the whole Maghreb. See that? They use tobacco for all sorts of things: money, magic, and meditation. So we've been smoking this stuff for a long time.